we're going to do here is a demonstration on grinding blades. I have a very specific way that I do this that I developed over many years. And I start with good abrasives, very important. And I'll tell you what, I'm having trouble talking, and that's a bad deal. I have Parkinson's, and so this comes on every now and then, and it's a real booger when it happens during a class. So I may not be able to say as much as I would, so you might just have to watch and see what happens, and I'll speak as much as I can. Abrasives are the most important thing. You can't grind good trying to get the last little inch out of your abrasive. You're never going to be a good grinder. You can't grind good if you don't learn to grind. If you just go out there and start making knives and do it ad lib without having some kind of plan, you're going to fight it for the rest of your life. And I didn't like that, and that's the way most guys do it. Most of the bladesmiths have problems with carpal tunnel and all kinds of stuff because they do too much by hand. And you don't get any money for a blade. That's not where you make your money. You make your money on the knife, embellishment, and things like that. You should be able to process your blades quick and efficiently. And to do that, you have to have a system that works very well. Number one, I must say this is the best grinder there is in the world, and Travis has done a great job on it. But a lot of other grinders will work, but this thing is fantastic. And the way that what makes it so nice is the fact that the tool reps work so well and they're so accurate that it makes your life a lot easier. They're very, very steady. You want a machine that doesn't wobble and that will deliver enough power that you can't bog it down. And these are every bit of that. So just to get down to the beginning, I'm going to take a blade that is, in this part of the demonstration, it's just a profile piece of 52-100. I could show you both, and I may, if we have time, show you the grinding of a forged blade as well. But in the beginning, I don't believe in people learning to forge before they know how to make a knife. To me, it's more important that you learn to make a knife before you forge. Because if you haven't made a knife, you don't even know where to hit it and where not to hit it. So as you start out, don't be afraid to make knives without forging. It's better. The fundamentals are you're going to profile your knife either by saw or by grinder. I like to do as much by sawing as possible. This is not, even though this is a factory piece of steel, it is sheared, it's not straight. So you cannot grind a nice grind on the knife if it's not straight. One side will do something, and the other side will do something the opposite. You'll get a high grind on one side and a low grind on the other. So make sure they're straight. I'm not going to straighten this by hammering on it. I'm going to straighten it by surface grinding it. Oh, Jason is here.
That's not the best. You want a better belt than that, Tim?
Nah. Mike will have to finish.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Poor buddies. You don't care. Mike will do it. So, Travis is surface grinding it. Works really well. I'm just going to take off and have to get this thing squared up, straightened up. He was right.
Okay. It's hard to make a knife without good abrasive.
That's right. Yeah, we just heard that. This is part of the dog and pony show, you know. You're gonna have a little fun with it. So I'm just gonna take enough to level this off. And then I'm gonna set it down, and always set it down before you will flip your blade over. Because all it takes is one little bump on that wheel while that thing's running, and you will have that blade somewhere you don't want it. I had one stuck in the ceiling once. Notice how now it's just grinding on the center of that. Before it was grinding on each end, and not in the center at the start. Now we're getting a nice straight blade. This is 1/4 inch thick steel. And with this size of knife, that would be about the maximum thickness that you would want to use. And that's relative to the geometry of the cutting edge. If you use the broader the knife, the thicker it will be. The narrower the knife, naturally, the thinner it has to be. Basically, we are wedge makers. We make wedges that are like mauls, you know, for splitting something, or we can make wedges that are very thin that cut well. So you don't want to make your blades too thick. A thinner blade cuts better than a thicker blade. Now, the first thing you want to do is establish a center line. Well, I've been converted, believe it or not, to actually using equipment that is scientifically advanced, more beyond my knowledge. And it was gifted to us by a good friend. And these center finders, or whatever they call them, pretty much a center finder, height gauge, is very nice. It has a great way of doing many, many things, but at this point right now, all I'm doing is taking this carbide edge. I set it up to the center of this knife, and I only personally scribe the cutting edge side of the blade, because I have another way of doing other things, but you need some form of reference for center line. And if you ground the cutting edge on the transversely as your profile of your knife, you don't need Dicam. You don't need any kind of color, because as you can see, that's very obvious and stays there. And you don't, the Dicam I hate because it wears off and then you can't see anything. This way it's very obvious. Now, I flat grind, but you can see I've got a hollow wheel up here. The reason I use a wheel first is because it's very important to me that I conserve my abrasives as well as I can. And I usually do about 5 knives at a time. Some will be longer, some shorter, and when I go to grind. So I set this up with an angle plate, and there's a reason that I have that angle plate, and it's so that I can grind to that line very comfortably. I have an optimizer here somewhere. It's right there. And if you have your, you can do it the old way. And most guys used to do it just by walking up to their grinder and holding it by hand and trying to grind some kind of a short angle grind to get an established center line. But when you're doing this professionally, you want to conserve your energy. Because it's a lot of work to do all that, you know, holding everything by hand. I mean, tables make all the difference in the world. So I'm going to use this angle table. It needs, when you set these up, set them up where they're in a position that you can visually look straight down at the blade and see the line comfortably. If I had this up here, I'd have to get way over here. Okay, if I have it too low, it's not comfortable either. And everybody asks me what degree this is. I didn't used to know, but I checked it. It's around 52. And that seems to be very comfortable. So whatever, 50, 50, 52, 55, whatever. So, and I'm going to do this in different ways. If I went and tried to take this whole corner off and just hog down it, it's not very easy because I'm going to be removing a very thick piece of metal at one time. So it's easier to do this in a bite form. And a bite form means just pushing straight in. And then as you get to your line and you step over, half step, you push straight in again. And it goes very quickly. Lighting is very important. You gotta be able to see what you're doing. So make sure you have enough light at the point of work. Okay. That would have taken somebody manually quite a long time to do. But the really cool part is I can do both sides and they're going to come out the same. And it's going to be very quick to do that. The grinder blade ready for heat treat. Got the water yet. Shouldn't take much more than about, you can go really fast, but if you spend more than 20 minutes, you spend way too much time. To grind that blade ready for heat treat. And that's to be a very large blade. Right now we're not YouTubers, so we don't care if we get this hot. We're not going to hurt it to you haven't hardened or tempered or anything else, so you can get right after it. I have my thumb on it, so you can imagine that it's not all that hot to begin with. And I use the oxidizer because it makes it easy for me to see what's going on as I'm working. You can see we got a nice beginning done. And that is done very quickly on both sides. You learn to look at things like this with both eyes open, and look down and you'll see that you can look at both edges at the same time. It's amazing. And a very accurate way to look at the drawing lines like your strips and things like that. Right now I'm done with that technique, so I'm going to just change my work rest. And if you've got a nice table like this, you've got a place to put them on. And I'm going to swap over to a flat table. And I'm going to begin my hollow grinding, or my flat grinding, by actually working on this wheel, because the reason I'm doing that is to conserve my belts. As soon as you put a belt on a flat platen, it wears out faster. It just takes a toll on it. Push it on. Now, the presence behind this is, the closer this cutting edge is to the wheel, the higher up the blade I'm grinding. That sounds real simple, but this is a long learned process, and I've taught hundreds of people this, and it takes a little while to get the hang of it, but your control is in your thumb on your push stick. This arm is for pulling only. So you set yourself up so you're on a slight angle to your grinder, and your arm and shoulder are in the position to pull. I can pull a 3-foot sword through this by positioning my body in the right place. So you want to start out so that you're not standing your blade up like this. You got this distance between the edge of the blade and belt is what I call the gap. So I'm going to try and keep that gap the same as I go along here. And we're going to sit and do another plunge cut or a big cut like I did before. And then half step it, push it in, half step it, push it in, and then come down to your tip. At the beginning, those are you're just chunking it out. You're just getting rid of metal. Now I've got to the point now that I can bring that in there, lay it up, let it fill the pocket, and pull it. Because now I have a little bit of less stuff out in front of me. So I'm not trying to hollow grind this. I don't want to just keep going deeper, deeper, because I wouldn't really get the flat out, make a flat in there. So then I'm going to make the gap distance wider on the next cut. So what it becomes is a true scallop cut. And this is a shallow cut, so I don't have to plunge it. So I'm going to set the gap up and make a running cut or traveling cut. Okay. You can see that I have a series of cuts and not overload pushing it out. If it's still real sure, I can take it out just by changing the gap. You also notice that I'm not trying to grind the tip yet. The reason being, I like to move the tip a little bit thicker. If you have any warpage and heat treat, that's where it's going to go awry with you, generally. So if you move a little thicker, you have an opportunity to make it seem like you started out tonight. Otherwise, you're going to end up changing the profile. So now I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. I'm moving flat areas here, and I'm trying to maintain a line. Most flat grinders cannot maintain a line. Travel it. Get it cleaned up a little bit. This part of it does not have to be perfect in every little line, but we knock off our excess metal. Now I'm going to take and set the gap a little wider and put pressure on my thumb and take another bite. Check it, lay it back up.